Well, hello, this is Jeff Gaudiosi, and you're on misplacedstraws.com where music comes to life. My guest today, he's just a true living legend. I've been lucky enough to have him on the site a few times before. And this time he's here talking about sort of a new release from his band Vanilla Fudge called Vanilla Zeppelin, where they perform fudgified versions of some Led Zeppelin classics. Please welcome Carmine Appice. Welcome, Carmine.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing great.
Good.
So, Vanilla Zeppelin it recently came out worldwide via Golden Robot Records.
All
Now,
right.
is this a remastered version of the Out Through the Indoor European
Yes.
only release that you guys
Yes.
had?
Yeah. Well, we never really got. I'm gonna get my cup of tea here.
Mm-hmm.
We never really released it properly. What happened was when it was released back in the day in 2007,
Mm-hmm.
the label went out of business, so
Mm-hmm.
it never got a release. We never did anything for it. But we were calling something else. What do you call it? Vanilla. We just call it
That
Out Through
was
the
Out
Indoor.
Through the Indoor.
Yeah, we call it
Yeah.
Out Through the Indoor,
Mhm.
and it was just by Vanilla Fudge. They must have renamed it Vanilla Zeppelin. I think it's a terrible name, actually. Yeah, really.
And back then, was it the original lineup playing on that record?
Yes, it is, and we did it. We did it analog too, which is great.
Mhm.
You know, and we did a deal with Golden Robot Records, and just before COVID, like 2019.
Mhm.
And we were going to do the reason why they called it that, because we were going to call the album Supreme Fudge.
Mm.
We're going to do 5 Supreme songs, which we all arranged. I have arrangements on my iPad for it. And we never did it because of COVID, but we did do Stop in the Name of Love, right? And in January of 2020, before the COVID hit, I went to LA for the NAMM show, and I actually got Tim Bogut to play on it, which was awesome. So Tim played on it, and he was very sick at the time, but he did play on it. So so that was going to be called Supreme Fudge. So I guess they took that concept, Vanilla Zeppelin. I didn't know it was coming out worldwide, to tell you the truth, because they've been releasing singles off it,
Yeah.
and we got a small advance for it because it was already out.
Mhm.
And now, I got a call from the press agent saying you want to do these interviews. So I got a whole bunch of interviews today
Mhm.
talking about it. And, and it came up from our manager at the time, Tom Vitorino, that put this deal together. Originally, we were with him in 2005. Then we left him, went back, with the agents. It's been one of those deals. So he said, look, instead of doing like an album like we did Spirit of 67, where we did a bunch of different songs that came out in 1967. He said, why don't you pick one artist to do it? So we said, well, he said, what artist do you feel close to that you might? So we said, well, we were very close with Led Zeppelin, So we did that record in 2005, maybe something like that, 2006. And we pick songs that we like. And now when we play live, we actually do Dazed and Confused, and we changed it again with a different feel, almost like a jazzy kind of feel. And then in the middle of it, we go into Babe, I'm Gonna Lose You, and then back into the, 1, 2, 3, 4, and people love it. When we finish that, they usually get a huge cheer because we really, fudged it, like we
Well,
always do.
I think the cool thing about this record is you guys go through the whole Zeppelin career. I mean, you even have stuff toward the end like All of My Love and Fool in the Rain on it.
Yeah.
Was it just picking songs you liked, or how did you come
Yeah.
up with the
We're
tracks?
just picking songs we liked and thought that we could do some cool arrangements with it,
Mhm. And again, you guys are known for amazing covers, and there's a ton of Zeppelin records out there. The great Beth Hart just put one out earlier this year.
Right.
But it's different when you guys do it because you were so close to them. I mean, in your book, Stick It,
Yeah.
available on Carmine's website,
Yeah.
you talk a lot about Zeppelin opening for you guys and your relationships
Actually, it's
with
a
them.
CarmineMerch.com.
There you go.
That's the website. We changed it.
Yeah. And talk a little bit about the relationships you had with John Bonham, particularly, but with the Zeppelin guys, because you really
Well,
get into it in the
you,
book.
you got to understand that when they came out, nobody knew them.
Mhm.
People knew Jimmy Page. We used to do gigs with the Fudge and the Yardbirds with Jimmy Page in it. So um, the Yardbirds were on. We had the same lawyer. Let's put it that way. All right. Jeff Beck had the same lawyer. Peter Grand was the manager. Our manager was Phil Basile that managed us, and he managed for a while Ted Nugent. And basically, that's how it happened. We had the same lawyer. So when they finished their record, it wasn't going to be released till January, right, of '69. So we got a copy of it, I don't know, maybe October, November '68. And they said, well, listen to this record. This is Jimmy Page's new band, Led Zeppelin. I said, who's in it? They said, well, nobody you know. They're all brand new guys, but it's a great record. So we listened to it. When I heard Good Times, Bad Times with the foot on John Bonham, I said, whoa, this is badass, man. So we all loved it. So they said, we want to do some shows with them, have them open up. I said, great. So the very first show we did was in December 26, 1968 in Denver. It was Vanilla Fudge and Spirit. The gig was sold out. So our agent was Led Zeppelin's agent. And he said, well, look, Barry Fay was his name. Barry, we want to put Led Zeppelin, Jimmy's new band. We don't need him, Barry says. We're already sold out. So he said, it's only $1,500. Come on, put him on the show. They need to start getting exposure. He didn't want it. So the agent said, I'll tell you what we'll do. You pay $750 and Vanilla Fudge you pay $750. You have him on the show. So he broke down and said, okay. So he put him on the show, and there were, boos like, bring on the Fudge and, get rid of them. And, but we liked them, So then I got to meet John Bonham, and he saw my big drum set that I had at the time. And he loved, I didn't find out till later that I was really an influence on him when I read a book called Thunder of Drums. And it talked about when he came to that show, that tour, and he went back, and him and Cozy Powell were friends. And they would talk about, John Bonham would talk about, because that was before Cozy was with Jeff Beck, and he would talk about what it was like seeing me and all that stuff. And, I didn't know that until, I knew I influenced because he told me, but I didn't really know how much until I read that book, And I didn't like talking about it myself, saying, yeah, I influenced John Bonham, because it makes me sound like an egomaniac, and most people didn't believe it. Because John Bonham became such an icon. But it was a good relationship, I'm always like that. When I was with Ozzy, I used to hang out with Motley Crue. They were the opening act. So I'd hang out with them, hang out with Tommy, hang out with Mick and all of them, and that's just the way I am, I'd hang out with the roadies, I'm a friendly guy and I like to meet new people, And so that's how it was. So me and John started hanging out. And he loved my drum set, and he asked me, you think you can get me a Ludwig endorsement with the drums you have? I said, I don't know, I'll call them. So when I called him, I said, it's a new band, John Bonham from Led Zeppelin. I think they're going to be big, right? It's an understatement, about 6 decades, But he got the same drum set I got. And I have a picture, when the top of the picture is me, my kit, and the bottom of the picture is John with his kit. And exactly the same kit. So,
did you guys stay in touch through the 70s, after that tour, or was it just too much going on?
We did another tour in '69 with them, and that tour he used that same kit, and that must have been funny because it was what you call we switched headlining. One night we headlined, next night they would headline, but we both had the same drum kit. So no matter who was headlining, the drum kit goes up and plays, then the drum kit comes off and another drum kit comes on, the same drum kit. So I often wondered what the people in the audience thought. And Randy Castillo, that played with Ozzy, was in the audience once for one of those shows. And he was wondering what the hell was going on, he said, And but it was a good tour. He played double bass on that tour. After that tour, Robert and Jimmy said he was too busy, and they got rid of one bass drum, and the Led Zeppelin drum set was born because it was really my kit without another bass drum.
Mm,
You know, my kit was all big and oversized. Nobody had a kit like that in those days. I was pioneering for Ludwig, all this
mm.
crazy stuff, you know.
Yeah, and it's funny, you mentioned that first gig in Denver with, the 2 of you in Spirit, and just kind of thinking of how things happen in history all these years later, we just had that whole trial going on a couple of years ago.
That was all baloney.
Was that the first time that those 2 bands played together? Was it at your show
Probably.
that
Their
all
first
centered
gig. It was their
around?
first gig.
Yeah.
I mean, the 2 bands, but I don't know.
Yeah,
Jimmy might have played with him with the
yeah,
Yardbirds, but you know, those chords are a stock set of
yeah,
chords.
yeah.
They're not anything that's you know, amazing about the chords. It's the
Mhm,
melody on top and the lyrics and the
mhm,
way they arranged it that really made the song happen. So, you know, it's just, I guess, some guys trying to make some money
yeah,
because maybe they're hurting.
mhm.
You know, I don't know. Randy, was it Randy? What was in that?
California.
Randy
Yeah.
California died.
Mhm,
Who else is in the band? The father,
yeah,
no, Randy's father died.
mm,
So who else? You know, surviving members probably didn't go on to do anything.
mhm.
So they thought, well, maybe we could sue Led Zeppelin. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, there's other lawsuits that meant
Yeah,
more, like when Ozzy got sued by Bob and Lee,
mhm,
you know, for the first album. I mean, that was
yeah,
legitimate, and
mm,
they lost when they shouldn't have lost,
mhm,
you know.
yeah.
So
Vanilla Fudge, you guys were just such a groundbreaking band. I mean, you really were the first heavy rock band out there. And you said bands like Led Zeppelin and Deep Purple count you among their influences. But yet, as history has gone on, for some reason, you guys aren't mentioned the same way those bands are. Do you think that, you guys were mostly known for interpreting other people's songs?
uh,
Do you think that's why, looking back, you still don't get the respect that you deserve for being such an
I
amazing
think that
band?
might be the problem.
Mhm,
And we did a third album, which we wrote all our songs.
mhm,
But the second album we did killed our career. I'm
mhm,
sorry, but The Beat Goes On was too soon. We had an amazing first album. We had other song arrangements like Season of the Witch, which was a big song from that
yeah,
record. And we had a lot of other songs that we had already recorded. You know, like a Rolling Stone
mm,
was another big one. We could have put on another album. There was some other ones, One More Heartache, you know, by Marvin Gaye. We
mhm,
had all these things recorded, but Shadow and Armin Erdogan, you know, they were the controlling factor of us.
mm,
We didn't know anything, you know, we were brand new, you know. So instead of having us do a second album, just like the first album, like everybody else did,
mm,
we did this ridiculous concept album. It was horrible. There's only one song on there, Moonlight Sonata.
yeah,
I mean, that could have been on a second album with these other songs I mentioned.
mhm,
And, you know, we probably would have done some more R&B songs and had another second album, just like the first. And, you know, probably would have did the same thing or better because
mm,
that was going on that back then. You get the first album, made the breakthrough and gave you all that stuff, you know, and then the second album, hold on, my phone's
yeah,
just going off there.
mm.
Come on, hold on.
Yeah,
Spam.
yeah,
So let me put
mm,
the airport airline thing on this. Hold on.
mm,
So that doesn't happen again. There you go.
mm,
So so that album really screwed us up. I remember
mhm,
in California, we were like big in California, you know, and they would play the first album, they play the whole side of the album, you know. So when the second album came out, they would play the whole side. People were taking acid and getting really stoned.
mm,
They would call the radio station, take it off, it's putting us
mm,
on a bummer,
mhm.
you know, because it was depressing. You know,
Yeah,
one thing, Black Power, he Sea Guile, Black Power,
yeah,
crazy stuff. And
mm,
this was, you know, Ahmed Erdogan and Shadow Morton. We didn't
mm,
know what we were doing. When we heard the album for the first time, I sat with Tim. I said, "This sucks," you know. And our manager was like confused. You know, he was new in the business
mm,
too. You know, so when that album came out, it went up, it zoomed up to the top 15 quick because of our first album,
mm,
which was still on the charts, and then it started zooming right down.
mm,
So label said, you better go in and do another album. So we rushed in with songs that we wrote, thinking that everybody's saying we don't write songs. So we wrote
mm,
songs and then they released the first single was Season of the Witch. It's a cover, you know. But then that charted,
Mhm.
and at one point, and then they released in '68 September. They re-released "You Keep Me Hanging On,"
Mhm.
which went to #5. Before that, beginning of '68, we went on the Ed Sullivan Show and talk about groundbreaking. We were the very first band to ever get on the Ed Sullivan Show without a smash single.
Yeah.
We had a big album. You know, we were the first band to break the top 10 without a smash single.
Mhm.
We were so many things that we did, and you know, the Rock Hall of Fame doesn't recognize
Mhm.
us. You know, that I don't really care because
Mhm.
I think they're a bunch of baloney anyway.
Mhm.
Because come on, they're bringing country people in there
Mhm.
and rap people. That's not rock and roll. They should change the name.
Yeah.
If they were the Music Hall of Fame, it made more sense.
Mhm.
You know,
Well,
like we're in the Long Island Music Hall
yeah.
of Fame. They bring everybody in there.
Mhm.
You know, and it's no big deal. But when you call the Rock Hall of Fame and you got country artists going in there, what does that mean?
Mhm.
You got rap artists going there. What does that mean? It's not the same thing. But
Well,
anyway, so that's what killed our career. And we released that one. When Hanging On went up again, when we ended up having a top 5 single and 3 albums on the charts,
Mhm.
you know. But still, for some reason, we didn't get the notoriety that Jimi Hendrix got or the
Mhm.
Cream got, you know, where, you know, we would play like 8,000 seaters where Cream were doing 20,000 seaters,
Mhm.
you know. And Hendrix really didn't get to that point. He died before that.
Yeah. Yeah, and kind of along those lines, you bring up the Rock Hall, and again, Vanilla Fudge has just sort of been ignored by the institution. But I think an even worse thing is, they used to have a sideman category, and now it's musical excellence. They put Randy Rhoads in last year. When you look at your standing in music and just everything you have played on and done, does it surprise you at all that your name, either with or without any of your bands, has never been brought up? Because that's just kind of shocking.
Well,
Yeah.
I never really thought about it. I didn't even know
Mhm.
they had that
Yeah.
until a couple of years
Mhm.
ago. And some people said, "Well, you should be in the Rock
Yeah.
Hall for that." I said, Maybe you're right, but they don't like. What is going on here?" I shut this thing off. Oh, I know what it is. I got the Wi-Fi on
Yeah.
too. I got to shut that off.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
um,
Mm.
I never really thought about it, but now
Mhm.
that you mentioned it,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. You know, I've done a lot.
Mm.
A lot of people. I've influenced a lot of people. I had a drum book. It's the
Mhm.
biggest selling rock drum book. I was the very first guy to do a rock clinic of
Yeah.
anybody. You know,
Mm.
nobody knew what a rock clinic was, whether it was a drum clinic or guitar clinic or a bass clinic.
Mhm.
I pioneered that in 1971.
Mhm.
You know, I pioneered the clinics. I pioneered writing the books. I influenced people. I pioneered drum sizes
Mhm.
and drumming. Stands and the way I created the style. You know,
Mhm.
I didn't even know they had that. But
Yeah.
you're probably right. You're the first one that ever brought that up to me.
No,
But
without a doubt. I mean,
it would be nice.
yeah.
But I mean, I've gotten so many other awards.
Mhm.
That it doesn't really bother me. I got the
Mhm.
Modern Drummer Award.
Yeah.
I was the very first one in Modern Drummer magazine
Mhm.
to win the rock polls.
Mhm.
You know, I'm in the so
Mhm.
many different polls
Yeah.
on Sunset Boulevard. My
Mhm.
handprints are in
Mhm.
the Rock Walk of Fame and all these other things that I've gotten, the Heavy Metal
Mhm.
Rock Award, blah blah blah. But it would be nice. But
Yeah.
if it ain't, you know,
Yeah.
maybe when I die, I'll go in.
Yeah. You're always working on projects. Anything coming up in the pipeline?
Of course.
Mhm.
December 1st, I had my very first storytelling gig, which is called the Carmine Appice Diaries,
Mhm.
and it's going to be involve the audience.
Mhm.
I'm gonna have a drum set there. I'm gonna play like Hot Legs at the end of the show.
Yeah.
I took the drums off of Hot Legs with Rod. When Rod goes, I love you, honey, I'll do a drum solo.
Mhm.
And then I'll meet everybody over for the merch.
Mhm.
And the intro is really a cool intro. What ends up, you see a diary running through the sky. You see all these pictures going into the diary. And it gets quick and it's got all this orchestral music going through it. And then it flies through the crowds and it hits the ground. Hits the ground, it opens up. You see some of the pictures and the orchestra is still playing.
Mhm.
And then it comes to the screen, full screen, and the names of the stories come in,
Mhm.
right? And
Mm.
that's the story. So then, you know, we're going to say, welcome, Carmine Appice. My wife is a radio talk show host, so she's going to say, welcome, Carmine Appice on the flash drive. I'm going to come up, get everybody clapping their hands, and play a stick solo on my sticks,
Mm.
like I do. When I
Yeah.
end it, I'm going to go, okay, let's do some storytelling.
Mm.
Raise your hands if you want to hear a story. Somebody raised their hands. I pick him. What story you want to hear? I want to hear the John Lennon Eats Lasagna story. And I want to hear the Prince in Your Bed story. Who's in my bed? And whatever we title it, you know. So we get to title it all, and then the titles stay up on the screen for the whole show. And then I go, okay, next. They raise their hands, and somebody might ask me a question, you know. And then I know somebody's going to want to ask me about the mud shark. I'm going to say, I'm sorry, that story is too X-rated. If you want to hear that story, read it in the book. The book's over there at the merch.
Where's this going to take place?
First one is at the Boca Black Box, December 1st. It's a small place. I just wanted to, I didn't know if it was going to be successful, or if it's going to suck, if it's good. So I wanted to do it, in Florida, where it'd be easy to book something.
Yeah. So
I booked it, and so far, we haven't really promoted it yet. We got 50 of the 100 tickets sold, and I anticipate we can get close to a sellout, if not a sellout. And then I'm going to have somebody there with cameras. I'm going to video it so I can make a really cool sizzle reel, And then I got an agent that said he can book it, and I'm going to go around. I heard that Ricky Rockman's doing that too, but he's just doing the 80s. I'm going to be doing the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, stories about everywhere,
And now, one thing I have to ask, because it's one of my favorite records ever, any chance of a Blue Murder reunion or anything with John Sykes?
The closest thing to Blue Murder is my Guitar Zeus records. Because we had Kelly Keeling was on the second Blue Murder, Tony Franklin, myself, and John. Okay. But John doesn't want to do it. He doesn't like, I don't know why. Somebody said he don't like the way the business is today. I don't know why. I haven't really connected with him. So that's the closest thing. My Guitar Zeus records. There's a box set out now. We're thinking of making the best of, like on a single vinyl, because some great stuff. I had a guy today said, "Man, I just listened to that Guitar Zeus stuff. When did you do that?" I said, 1995. He goes, "Man, that deserves Octane right now. It's so in time with Octane." I said, "I know. It's a great record." So I really love the record. I mean, I think it's some of the best stuff I've done in my career.
Definitely. Well, we've been spending some time here with the legendary Carmine Appice. The band is Vanilla Fudge. The record is Vanilla Zeppelin, just fudgified versions of Zeppelin songs. Carmine, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. It's always a pleasure to talk with you, and hopefully we catch the band on the road sometime soon.
Okay, man. Where are you from?
I'm right in Connecticut as well.
Oh, you're in Connecticut. Yeah. We're not there anymore.
Oh, okay. So the last time we talked, I think you were still up there.
Yeah, we used to be there. Okay, great.
Thanks so much. We'll see you soon.
See you next time. Okay, ciao.
Bye.
Bye.